Thank you for joining us. It's great you can be here. Um, I'm sure you're all getting used to and experiencing your Gateway to the World course at the moment. And today we're going to talk about one of the features of the virtual class of the Gateway to the World course, and that's the virtual classroom exchange. Now, this is going to be a really practical session. It's not going to be a long session. I'm going to talk for about half an hour, and this is going to be a really practical session on how to get started with the virtual classroom exchange. How do you get going? How do you find a partner class? And a little bit about why we might want to be performing a virtual classroom exchange. I'm sure you've heard lots about it, and you've probably seen plenty of evidence of it within your Gateway to the World book. So we're going to talk about how we can get started. But before we do that, I want to talk about icebergs, oddly enough. Now, I don't know much about icebergs apart from what they did to Leo DiCaprio and who was it? Kate Winslet, leaving them floating around in that sea. But one of the interesting things about icebergs is that most of an iceberg is below the surface. So there's only around 10% of an iceberg that you can actually see above the water, and 90% of it is below. And this is often used as a metaphor for how we talk about culture, our culture and other people's cultures. And the idea is that much like an iceberg, only 10% of our culture is visible, is really open and obvious for people to see. Things like our food, things like our clothing, dance, art, music. And as we were reeling off the countries that were in the chat, I had a list in my mind, probably because I haven't had any dinner, but I had a list in my mind of all the wonderful dishes from all of those countries that we've been listing this evening. But a lot of what we describe as culture, things like our language and our verbal and non-verbal communication, our attitudes and norms, our beliefs and values, and our relationships and the roles that we have in society, this is something referred to as deep culture, and it's abstract and it's not as visible. And often in teaching materials and things we look at, we're looking and very focused on that 10%, and we explore people's food and clothing, things like that, and it's very difficult to dive down into that 90%. The only real way to dive into that 90% is through communication and really talking and exploring and giving people the opportunity to explore their own cultures. So if you think about your own students, what sort of things would they say about their culture if they had the chance to share that with somebody else? So how can we help students to share those elements of their culture and learn and interact with people from another culture? And what sort of skills do they need to do that? So interacting with other students and people of our teenage students' age around the world can really help students develop things like skills like cross-cultural awareness and understanding. We can help them improve their intercultural communication, things like developing a positive and open-minded attitude, and improving their critical and creative thinking. All of these skills, I'm sure, are skills that you work on in the classroom, and skills that are fundamental for today's students to start developing, particularly as they look to go into adult life, the world of work, or further studies, whatever it may be that they wish to do. All of these skills are fundamental, and there's something we can really foster with a type of interaction or exchange with another culture. Now, these type of exchanges, they're not new to people. Some of you, when you were younger, and when I was certainly younger, will have done exchange programs. I went to France, to Lille for a week to live and study in Lille. But these type of exchanges, while really beneficial, are difficult to organize, and they're also restricted to students who socioeconomically can perform those types of exchanges. So one of the ways we can facilitate one of these exchanges and make it work for us as teachers and for our students is by doing it online and interacting with students online. It's something that they do between themselves, between their own culture, very regularly online. but not as often in the classroom. So this interacting online with others outside of their immediate community can strengthen learners' life skills, their critical and creative thinking, intercultural communication, and their collaboration. And it can help students identify and appreciate cultural differences, and maybe identify some of those, and quash perhaps some of those stereotypes held about cultures as they learn and exchange about theirs and other cultures. So it sounds great, right? It sounds fantastic. But how can you begin to implement these in your classroom? And how can you get started doing a virtual exchange in your classroom? Well, fortunately for all of you using the Gateway to the World course, it's really simple. So us at Macmillan Education have partnered with a company called Empatico, who are part of the Kind Foundation, to launch the Virtual Classroom Exchange. And the Virtual Classroom Exchange is a feature that's unique to the Gateway to the World course, and it enables teachers, so Samantha, who's just joined us from Argentina, and Gisela from Argentina, to join Renata in Slovakia, in our teachers from the Czech Republic, Greece, Turkey, wherever it may be. You can communicate, partner, and exchange with classes from around the world. Now, Macmillan Education's partnered with Empatico because we're closely aligned on this vision that these exchanges can be a really powerful tool for students to foster all of those skills that we've already talked about. Something that also proves to be a challenge for teachers of teenage students, and all of you here are just that, teachers of teenage students, and I can only imagine the challenges that that are involved with teaching teenagers. One of the things that teachers tell us is that a real challenge is real communication and fostering communication, getting students to have the motivation to communicate in English. Well, with something like a virtual exchange, that motivation is built in. When you're exchanging with students in other countries, you're instantly motivated to produce, to talk, and to communicate in English. It's another really powerful feature of the virtual classroom exchange. So you'll recognize on some of these images stuff that you'll have seen in your Gateway to the World coursebook, those culture exchange boxes that run throughout the unit, and the collaborative projects that are every second unit in Gateway to the World. These collaborative projects can be the output, the guideline, and the framework that you can use as a teacher to exchange with classes around the world. So the virtual classroom exchange is all about bringing together learners from different cultures and backgrounds to promote that teamwork, collaboration, and foster that intercultural awareness. It sounds really exciting, and I'm sure you're desperate to know how you get started. So fortunately, it's very, very simple. And we're going to look now at the really practical steps of how you can get started as a Gateway to the World teacher, get started using the virtual classroom exchange. Now, your first step, and you'll receive the recording of this webinar and all the links you need in the follow-up email tomorrow. So if you get lost or you want to write anything down, that's fine. If you have any questions along the way, chuck them in the chat box and I'm happy to answer them either as we go or at the end. Your first step with the virtual classroom exchange is navigating to macmillanenglish.com, clicking on the teenage section, finding the Gateway to the World course, and clicking on this tab called Virtual Classroom Exchange. Once there, you simply click on Register My Class. You'll be directed to a page to sign up. And you just need to pop in a few simple pieces of data about yourself. You can use your school email address, you can use your personal email address. It's entirely up to you. If you already have a Google account and you don't want to end up with a million different passwords, a million different emails, you can also sign up with your Google account. It's entirely up to you, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Once you've done that, we need to register the students' ages that you're teaching, the class size, and the interests and topics that your class might have. You might want to click on all of them, you might want to click on none of them. It just helps you to be able to find the perfect partner class, and for the perfect partner class to find you within the platform. Once you've done that, you need to pop in the details of your school. You can search it within the search box. So this is an example of the Colegio Miraflores. And if your school doesn't autofill or come up automatically, you can add it now. So I've just added in Colegio Miraflores, which is a fictitious school in Celaya, Mexico. Once you've added in your school, the really important step is to add in the days that you're using Gateway to the World. This will help you to match with your partner class and make sure that you're able to do exchanges at a similar time that fits your schedule. So you can see here, in my case, I've said that my Gateway to the World classes, I give them on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And then I can add in the times that I have them. So I have them early morning on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and late afternoon after 3 p.m. So those are the times that my partner class is going to be able to see that I'm available to perform an exchange. And that's it. In terms of details for signing up, that's it. You're ready to go. You're live. You're on the platform, and your class is registered, ready to make communication, ready to find a partner class. Once you are inside the Empatico dashboard and you click on Buy Program, what you'll see is a number of different cards with the details of different classes. You can see here, we've got, in this example, we've got a class in Russia, 2 classes in Turkey, and 1 class in the UK. You can click on View Details. You can see the details of their class, what age their students are, what interests they have, and any class, and as many classes as takes your interest. You can simply click on Connect, and that will send a request to that class for a connection. It will come up with a box to send a short message where I can say, "Hi Magda, I'd love to connect with your class." And once I've sent that request will appear in my pending requests folder under my communications. It's pending because my partner class still hasn't accepted it. As soon as they've accepted the request, it'll appear in your connected folder under my connection. So I'm now connected with this class in London with Magdalena Matters. Once I'm connected with my partner class, Norma, you'll get the request once you register on the platform. So once your class is registered on the platform, you'll be able to send and receive requests. Once you're in the dashboard, you'll see this is your inbox. So you can see here, I've sent a message to my partner class, to Magda, said, "Hi Magda, nice to meet you." And I'll see when she replies within the chat feature. Next to the chat feature, you've got this really nifty feature called Scheduler. Now, this helps us to understand when our partner class has availability and when we have availability, and when we have shared availability. So you can see here with Magda, everything that's in blue is when she's available, and everything that's in purple is when we're both available. So I can see that between 10 and 12 on Wednesday is probably the best time to send Magda a request to perform a virtual exchange, because both of our classes are overlapping at that time. And it's important to point out that this accounts for different time zones. So there's no calculation needed on your part to decide in which time zone somebody else is in. If it appears at 10 a.m. for me, it's because my partner is available at that time. We schedule a meeting. So we can send an invite to schedule a meeting. This can either be a meeting to talk to your partner teacher prior to exchanging with your class to decide which project output you're going to do, how you're going to do it, how you're going to run the timings, that sort of thing. Or it can be that you've agreed all of those elements over chat beforehand, and this is the invite to the real exchange. You can use Empatico Zoom, which is Empatico's built-in video conferencing tool. However, lots of you will already be using Google Meet, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, so you can set up a link through those existing platforms. That's particularly helpful if in our schools we're already using one of these platforms and we don't want to be asking anyone to start downloading using a different software. Sometimes on school computers, it's difficult to install any different type of software. So we can use one of these existing video conference tools. Once we've done that, that meeting will appear as pending in our schedule until our partner class accepts that meeting, where it will appear as confirmed in dark blue, and you'll be able to access all the details of the meeting. So you can see here, I can grab the link, I can copy the meeting details to share them, maybe by email with another teacher in the faculty, or I can add them to my personal calendar or your work calendar. We know that the availability of our class might change from month to month, term to term, year to year. You can always adjust this in settings. So if, for example, my Gateway to the World class no longer happens on a Monday and it moves to Friday, I can simply click on the Edit Settings button in the top right-hand corner of my dashboard and change my availability. I can also cancel any connections that I don't want anymore. Maybe I've already connected with my partner teacher. Maybe I messaged them and I didn't receive a response. You can cancel that connection. There's no limit to the number of connections you can have. You can have 1, 2, 5, 10, it doesn't matter. And to answer your question, Aya, you can have an exchange every day if your partner teacher wants to have an exchange, or you can do them once a year. It really is up to you, up to your partner teacher. You're in complete control. Along the way, you don't have to be checking back into the platform all the time to see whether somebody's replied, whether you have a new connection. You'll receive email updates to the email that you use to register. So it's important you use an email that you check often, whether that's your work email or your personal email. You'll receive updates via email of new messages, new connections, and reminders for any scheduled meetings you have. And that's it. You're ready to explore the world with your class. You're ready to foster those connections, find those connections, and go and find classes around the world to perform these cultural exchanges with and really foster that communication with your students. There's a lot of material within the book that will help you and give you a framework of what sort of activities you could be doing. The projects and the project outputs are designed specifically to be used with this type of exchange. So check out the projects. There's also plenty of support on the TRC. You have a guideline. It's around 20 pages of a guide of how you can do these virtual classroom exchanges, how to use the projects. In the teacher's books, there's also guides on how to use the projects for these virtual classroom exchanges. Within your teacher's app, you'll see now there's a link to register for the virtual classroom exchange. And if you run into any problems at any point, you can email support@empatico.org and you'll have an answer really quickly to any technical issue you might have. This virtual classroom exchange is a really powerful tool for developing and fostering those skills and those elements of communication, intercultural awareness that we talked about at the start. And I really hope that you'll be able to start using these with your students and be able to sign up for the platform. As I mentioned, tomorrow you'll receive an email with a recording of this session if you want to go back and check any of the details. You'll also receive the link where you can sign up for the platform, and you'll also receive the certificate for your attendance here this evening. I wanted to leave plenty of time to address any questions people might have. So please fire away, pop them in the chat. But first, let me address the ones on the Q&A. So Norma's asked, the platform will only let me schedule a meeting that has to be performed by Zoom, for example. You can schedule a meeting, Norma, that can be performed by Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, or Empatico's own Zoom function. You get to choose. You're in control. And I answered that question about the frequency of the exchanges. You can do 1, you can do 2, you can do 300. You can do as many as you want, and you can find as many partner classes as you want. Maybe you want to find partner classes in three different countries over a year. that's up to you. The more people that are on the platform, the more options there are for you all to choose from and to match with. Hi, Ilkna. No problem, Maya. Any more questions? Are we all excited about signing up for the virtual classroom exchange, registering our class? Now's a good time as we come to the end of terms, maybe a good pre-Christmas activity. As classes begin to wind down, maybe you can find that first partner class, and maybe you can do that first gateway to the world collaborative project with your partner class. And I really think this is something that for students is going to be really really exciting. Asli, at the moment you can only meet one school at a time, because you can only send an invite to one school at a time. But you can certainly partner with 2 schools at a time. That's no problem. You can partner with as many as you like. Any more questions from anyone? So nice to speak to people from all over the world at the same time. What we're doing now is a very, very, very close experience to a virtual classroom exchange. Fortunately, in the virtual classroom exchange, we'd be able to see each other as well. So I think it's a great experience for students. I think it'll be really useful for them. So please explore, register your class, and start interacting. That's a really important question, Susan. The communication is teacher to teacher, so there's no student to student communication. The teacher moderates all of the communication. So you can perform an exchange from class to class, whether you're all sat in a class and the other class is sat in their classroom, or you can share the link to the Google Meet and students could join from their home if you were teaching on a remote basis. It's entirely up to you, but the communication between teachers is always teacher-led. There's no student-to-student communication. That's really important from a safeguarding point of view. Well, I look forward to seeing you on the platform tomorrow. No limit, Renata, only the limit that exists on Google Meet. So if your class is 10, 20, 30, 40, you're fine. Okay. If you do have any further questions, you can always reach out to your Macmillan representative and they can pass the questions on to me. If your questions are technical doubts around the platform, you're having trouble with the platform, support@empatico.org. And you can always find all of this information in your Teachers Resource Centre on your Macmillan Education Teachers app. It's all there, and we really hope that you love this virtual classroom exchange and it's really useful. And we'd love to hear of any experiences you have with your students. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.